All right, guys, welcome back to round 2 of today's videos. I'm going to edit these all later and get them out, but we're going to talk about the strangest word is carminatives. So this is your video on carminatives. Now, if you're anything like me, when I first started, it sounds like something you're just going to hear in a chemistry class, and we're staying in that digestive range right now. But the term itself is actually very simple once you break it down. In fact, you've probably used carminative herbs your entire life and never realized that there was a simple name for them. So what exactly are these herbs? And why have we loved them and used them for centuries? So let's talk about that. So let's imagine this, right? So we've all experienced this in some degree, but Thanksgiving is a beautiful example of why you would need one of these, right? So you've had your turkey and your mashed potatoes and your rolls and your homemade gravies and your pie. And maybe some of you went back for seconds on pie. I probably go back for seconds on the gravy, which is usually a bad story for me in the end. So I usually have to reach for one of these herbs. And it seems like a great idea at the time, but then about an hour later, right, you're laying on the couch and you're like, oh, my stomach feels terrible, or I feel like a balloon, and I'm super bloated and I'm uncomfortable. Well, this is where these herbs come into play. And this is exactly the situation, right, where herbalists traditionally reach for our carminative herb. So we're starting to pick up on where we're going with this. So a carminative herb traditionally is traditionally used to help with relieving gas, bloating, cramping, and digestive comfort, right? So we start the bitters at the beginning of the meal and we end with our carminative herbs at the end. These are not exciting herbs, but they're exactly very useful for those of us that sometimes engorge or have something that upsets us. So a lot of the herbs that we're actually very familiar with and they're very common today and most people love fall into this category. And a lot of them live and exist in our kitchen right now. So you've got peppermint, ginger, fennel, dill. These are all in that family. You've also got coriander, chamomile. Chamomile is actually in there too. And these aren't strange exotic plants, right? As you can see, they're kind of very everyday common herbs that everybody is used to. They're also known as herbs and spices, right? For generations were used in cooking, and that wasn't on accident. So like historically, food and medicine were not always as separated as they are today. And sometimes your medicine was already in the meal, right? So you were already going to season with these herbs to prevent the issues later. So let's look at a few examples and break them down a little more. So like peppermint, right? Most people think of peppermint as a as a breath freshener. Look at every chewing gum and every mint, there's always a peppermint version. But herbalists usually always associate peppermint with digestion first. Have you ever wondered why at restaurants they hand you peppermint after a meal? It's not random. They don't want you to get home and have a bad experience because you're all bloated and gassy. So people noticed a long time ago that peppermint was very welcome after a heavy meal. Fennel also, let's break that one down a little more. If you've ever eaten at an Indian restaurant, there might actually be a bowl of fennel seeds at the register when you check out. Many people assume, again, it's a breath freshener, right? But again, fennel was valued as a digestive herb. So this is where herbal wisdom hides in plain sight. And people use these things so you leave the restaurant and don't have a bad experience, right? So it's good marketing too. So you've also got ginger. And ginger is probably one of the most famous, right, digestive herbs in the world. You've got ginger bugs and all that type of stuff too. It's found again from Asia, Europe, and beyond. You can find it in a lot of textbooks of how people used it. When people think of digestion, ginger is usually right at the top of the list. But chamomile, right? Chamomile is famous for relaxation. But herbalists have long appreciated its digestive benefits as well. I'm currently making a chamomile tincture as we speak and a glycinate. And it's actually an herb that was probably recommended for that more than you think. One more thing you'll think about and notice with carminatives is that they tend to be aromatic, right? So they smell wonderful. So think about crushing that peppermint between your fingers, and then you can really smell, right? Or you open a jar of pickles, right? And the dill's in there, right? You smell it coming at you. Fresh ginger, right? When you're chopping that up on the counter and stuff, it's very powerful. So they kind of announce themselves when they walk into the room far before you ever taste them. So a fun bit of history about it, right? So throughout history, wealthy households, right? So it was a sign of wealth, often ended elaborate meals with these seeds and herbs. And again, so it was so you wouldn't have a bad experience, which I think is kind of, it's kind of interesting to think about. So long before modern digestive products existed, people were using culinary herbs to support their comfort, carminative herbs to support their comfort after their meals. So this is where we get to the part of, is this a short-term or a long-term herb? For most people, carminatives are primary short-term. You use them only when they're needed. If you constantly have gas and bloating and everything, you're probably going to use them more than somebody else. Most of the time it's after a large, rich meal, right? And they're used to associate with bloating, gas, and digestive issues. And that doesn't mean that you can't enjoy them regularly. So many people drink peppermint and chamomile tea daily, right? But traditionally, these carminative herbs are often thought of as herbs for the moment rather than monthly and daily protocols. So one of the things herbalists teach us, or herbalism teaches us, is that some of the most valuable remedies are also some of the most simplest remedies, right? You don't necessarily have to always make a tincture to use an herb, and this is always a good case of it. A lot of people for years studied herbs before realizing many of the traditional herbs were already sitting in their kitchen, right? So as you start to make these correlations, you'll realize you're using these every day. And just remember that herbal wisdom is usually always hiding in plain sight. So if you only remember one thing from today's video, remember that a carminative is simply an herb traditionally used to help relieve gas and digestive comfort, right? So a very complex word, but the idea is actually very simple in terms. So again, this is why I thought it was very beneficial to earn this, because again, as we're talking through our herbal talks, and I'm like, it's this type of herb, it's this type of herb, it's this type of herb, it's very informative to know what we're talking about it. So what's your favorite digestive herb? Is it peppermint, ginger, chamomile, something else, right? Drop below comments of something else you use that I didn't mention, because again, these videos can't go on forever. So drop that, like I said, in the comment below. And until next time, stay rooted, stay curious, guys, and keep growing in grace. So I'll see you in the next one.